Thanks. Now, Ian Wilson, you're the strategic advisor to the Stratford Institute, and the Stratford Institute is also one of the partner organizations of Canada 3.0. Can you tell us a little bit about the Stratford Institute and also a bit about your background and particularly the archival experience that you have and how that's relevant to the digital media or just to a national digital strategy?
And roll it all into 1 minute or roughly. Very briefly, my background is I retired last April as head of the Library and Archives of Canada. Great institution. I hope all of you are aware of it. It's got 50,000 films in its collections from 1899 onward. And I don't know if you realize, they're also started construction on a nitrate vault for low temperature storage of secure storage of nitrate film. As you know, Canada lost a major portion of its early film with an explosion in a warehouse in Point Claire in 1967. Lost half our film heritage that day. So Library and Archives Canada, they're just building right now a nitrate film vault for preservation. And that takes directly then into the digital world. How are we going to preserve this? Canada's the first country in the world that's starting to preserve our websites and put them back live. The Government of Canada website's been preserved. It's back live, accessible. What about film, digital film? The whole range of issues around preservation. Anyway, I fundamentally failed retirement. I retired, I retired, accepted a position with the University of Waterloo, based in Stratford, Ontario, as all of you know, beautiful town, very creative, both with the Stratford Festival, the Summer Music Festival, and a whole lot of people who've done well in Toronto and who've retired or at least moved over to Stratford, still do business in Toronto, they're working out of Stratford. And the whole idea is to create there an institute, a think tank, graduate program, an undergraduate program in digital media. We're working up the curriculum right now on a master's degree in digital innovation, working on the think tank, very much involved in the Canada 3.0 conference. And I think if we do anything, I hope we establish the venue for new conversations. I've found working as librarian and an archivist, those two worlds didn't talk till we put the two institutions together. But too many of us are off meeting with like-minded people. We talk to each other. As you said, last year, too many of this group were in Banff talking together. But in Stratford, we tried to bring together people from many different backgrounds in this country, all concerned about digital and digital future, but private sector, government and government at all levels, universities. And it's not just Waterloo, it's many universities, including OCAD is very much involved in this initiative. But trying to get new conversations underway. Because the private sector is supporting the Stratford Institute and doing it in Stratford, because they want to engage with the creative community. And that is fundamental to our vision. It's not just the techies. The technology today, and you talk to Tom Jenkins at OpenText and the others at RIM, the technology will do just about anything we want it to do right now. We just saw a demonstration of that. The real question is, what do we want to do with it? Where do we want to go? How does it affect and impact our society? How do we help our institutions change and adapt to what's coming down the pipeline in terms of those students we're working with at Waterloo? Because they're creative, and they are plugged in, and they are, you know, when they hit government and deal with silos and hierarchy, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be an interesting culture clash. We have to help all of our institutions adapt and deal with it. We need a whole lot of other people, and I think the key thing that came out of last year's 3.0 conference, and this is where I'll end, is that to succeed in this new digital world, Canada needs an extraordinary, unprecedented level of collaboration across government, private sector, universities, the NGOs, the creative sector, the technology sectors. We need a phenomenal new collaboration. That's what we need to promote here and in every other meeting we go to. Thank you.
Great. I liked in particular the fact that you really say that the technology is technology isn't the barrier to doing what we want to do. It's not having a plan for how we're going to do it, and perhaps not having the skills in place today for how we're going to do it. And I'm going to use that as a segue to Sarah. Talk a little bit about things from an education perspective, but I know there are a couple of other burning issues you want to touch on as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. My background is I was at the Banff Center for many years, and I founded something called the Banff New Media Institute, which was a kind of forerunner, I think, of what Ian's going to try and do at Stratford. And part of what we were very engaged with was trying to get a sense of kind of foresight of where our industries, the content industries and technology industries and research were moving at an international level, and then to help to kind of ground that in a good way back into Canada. And I think you know, we're at a really interesting moment right now. My institution, which is in the university sector, is I think one of many that have started really significant programs. Our program's called the Digital Futures Initiative. There's the Waterloo Initiative. There's all kinds of stuff happening in the West and at Ryerson, across the country. And I think one of the really important criteria right now as we move forward is to look at how we can collaborate together and be much more cooperative. You know, cooperation and competitiveness linked together to be able to look at really fundamental strategic initiatives at the level of education. So what does that mean? It means a transformation in K-12. So how do we work with provinces that really have that jurisdiction at a national level to help students be prepared for jobs that will demand digital skills, whatever industry they go into. And we'll also begin to create the cadre of creative students who will graduate into colleges and universities and into your companies in the future. And the colleges and universities need to really work together with the industrial sector to look at what are the skills that are needed not only in the very near future. So my institution, for example, is working with Ubisoft, and we're working with other institutions, CBC, CTV. We have a long list of collaborators looking at the kind of near future of skills and how we combine kind of business savvy with very independent creativity and with the kind of technology base that's needed. So that's now. But how do we think into the future? What are we going to need in 5 to 10 years? And how do we build an educational climate and context that really helps to give students the things that they need? And then at the university level, which is where we're situated, you're looking at an environment that has to always think ahead in terms of research. So one of my concerns as we move forward and develop a strategy is how do we deal with the kind of pragmatics of what content producers need, what industries need to survive in the near term, with your ability to look at the future and say, we need a really robust research environment in this country. I mean, the US is pouring money into research in this sector. The initiative that we're also part of, you know, at the national level that Ian described is an important one. There's a new Center of Excellence in digital media called GRAND that, again, we're part of. But this is kind of happening very late in the game in Canada compared to the kind of investment in other countries. And bridging technology research and content research with kind of policy research is going to be absolutely critical for this country, and universities have a really major role in the kind of strategic thinking that makes that possible. So I want to talk about a couple of things that haven't been raised yet. I think we really need to look at a kind of inclusive approach as well in Canada when we think about a national digital strategy. We need to think very much about cultural inclusion, about a country where the populations are infinitely culturally diverse. If I look at my student bodies, you know, at my institution alone, we're 60% visible minorities at OCAD. You know, and so we're looking at an environment that's increasingly culturally diverse. We have a phenomenal resource in terms of immigrant cultures that have come to this country and are networked out into the world. And we need to really think about inclusion as an economic driver in a digital world. And we have to think about markets that are not only in Canada. There is total disintermediation. I know you've talked about this morning in your industries, and Canadian producers need to have that link to the world, and we're going to have that link if we have a kind of inclusive approach to who has access to the digital, both in terms of audiences and the skills base and the ability to lever, you know, into international markets.